It's my privilege to introduce Jan Gilg, yes, from SAP. SAP is, as everybody knows, a long-established software company in Germany. I believe SAP is 45 years old now. It was founded in 1972. It has customers in more than 180 countries around the world. I think they serve over 350,000 customers. So tremendous company serving enterprises throughout the world. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Gil, who is responsible for strategy around SAP's IT systems. So he's intimately involved in their cloud strategy, working with many of the software to engage with customers, and offers, I think, a very interesting and important perspective on how platforms and softwares and IT are emerging, particularly to serve both internal needs and expectations for SAP, but ultimately to a very large number of customers around the world. Please.
Thanks so much, Peter. Thank you. Yeah, good morning, everybody. When I joined SAP, actually in the early 2000s, back then I remember BlackBerry was a pretty big deal, like sending and receiving emails on the phone, and only managers were allowed to have one. And we also just came out of the internet bubble, and I think the realization was this platform is actually not mature enough for the customers that SAP would traditionally serve. So this idea of connecting one of those precious ERP systems to the internet seemed rather a weird idea. And I think times have changed significantly. As we know, BlackBerry has pretty much lost the footprint in the corporate world. At SAP, smartphones have become a standard equipment for every intern nowadays. And I think SAP itself has started not only to connect their systems to the cloud, but to build the systems in the cloud. And I think the systems that are only connected to the cloud, many people would even call legacy systems, even though I wouldn't go that far. Nevertheless, our business model has evolved significantly as well over the last 10 years. If you think back from coming pretty much from being a single product ERP vendor, selling perpetual licenses and associated maintenance fees to large enterprise customer segment, to becoming a cloud company with a huge portfolio and boasting a platform business. And I think, Peter, when I saw your data earlier, those 3.7% in Europe, I think a big piece of it is actually SAP, which is also concerning when you think about Europe as a whole. But certainly we ventured into this business model, into those business models. And if you turn it around and look at it from an IT perspective, and I'm working very closely with our CIO, being responsible for IT strategy and enterprise architecture, we have a whole new set of challenges ahead of us to actually support those business models and those commercial models. And that's what I would like to talk to you about today, and giving you some insights on what we are doing in SAP internally. On the one hand, to support those new businesses from an IT perspective, but also then flip it around again and look a little bit into how do we also go to market and how do we address our customers with this new notion of platform. So how did this happen? And I think we've talked, many people have talked a lot about today's reality in the world in which we are living at right now, which widely has been described as digital economy. I think it's basically the fact that disruptive technology has put our customers actually in charge. They have put them in the driver's seats and also have increased expectation of those customers significantly in terms of what they want to buy in terms of products and services. And with that laid the foundation for the creation of new business models, which actually turned whole industries upside down. And I think it really affects every sector. And the software industry, for sure, was one of the first sectors that got disrupted here. And you can see that the incumbents, and I think SAP was certainly one of those, I would say, incumbents, like Peter said. We are 45 years old. We have a very loyal customer base, but we are also still seen by many of those customers as an ERP company and kind of part of the legacy. And if we then look into what we have to face internally, there's this board expectation that certainly wants to get out of this perception. They want to push into those new business models, and they want to be able to compete with our competitors in the cloud. And then you have our business partners, our own lines of business that actually think about what new strategies do we have to deploy in order to react. What kind of business models can we create? What kind of platform models can we create? And there's certainly a struggle with that. Yeah? It's a shift of mindset. So it's not only becoming a cloud company, I mean, selling software in the cloud all of a sudden, but I think it is much, much more than that. And then finally, the workforce, which is turning over now at SAP, it's more and more dominated by millennials, and they come with a whole set of different expectations, how they wanna work, and what the tools are they wanna use when they're working. The proof is in the numbers. I think some of the statistics also prove what has been stated earlier in the panel discussion. The top 5 companies now by market cap are actually tech companies. And what I think is interesting here, if you look into the new heavyweights, we talked about Uber, Airbnb, Facebook, all those companies are platform companies, and they equal 60% of the total market cap of our German stock index, the DAX. And I think that is, for me, a prime example of supply economy of scale versus demand economy of scale. And I know the platform disruption was a mandatory read, right? So before I came here. And, but it's true, because if you look into the German stock index, it's still primarily those industrial heavyweights. Like you have BMW, you have Siemens, even though Siemens goes into platform now as well pretty heavily. But still very manufacturing heavy, very traditional. And I think the valuation that we see now for those companies that are rigorously pursuing those platform business models are just much, much higher. And I think that explains somewhat why it's possible that those kind of companies now already make up 60% of this German stock index. So how did SAP react? I think we were in a situation around 2008 where it became clear we had to articulate a new strategy, and we had to change direction, and we had to maybe also set a new purpose, a new vision, but most importantly, the strategy to become the most innovative cloud company, to put this out there and say actively, we will have to move to adopt this new business model for us. We have to become a cloud company. And again, like I said earlier, it's not about then, and we've done that. We have acquired cloud companies, and we are selling their products, but it's not only about that. It's really about changing then the whole mindset also of the people, and understanding that it's significantly different to how the way you build software, the way you go to market with software, the way you sell it when you are a cloud company compared to a traditional on-premise company from where we came from. We also had to address our employees, like I mentioned before, and we had initiatives like how we work and how we run, and run simple. And we realized that for a company like SAP, it is mandatory to change internal processes and make them much, much simpler and much, much more standardized, especially when we look into those commodity processes that just didn't matter in the past because it wasn't so important how much cost of sale we had, for example, and how much back office cost we would have. But venturing into those new models, it becomes extremely important to stay profitable. So if you drill down a little bit more, then you can see we have defined 3 guiding principles in order to support our strategy. One of it is, and they are all interrelated, so you can't really take them all separate or look at them in an isolated way. We are looking into best-in-class cloud, so we do want to have best-in-class cloud applications. But most of them are actually, frankly, sitting on a platform. And I'm going to talk about some of our acquisitions specifically in this space, Ariba, and Concur, and Fieldglass in a little bit. Then OpenSAP, which means SAP itself realized that we had to go away from the proprietary technology we had used in the past. Some of you might have heard about ABAP. It's kind of a German language, computer language that we use to build our ERP system. And we realized you cannot scale with that. You cannot build the community and the ecosystem that you need in order to really grow. We have established quite a significant ecosystem there. We have our own platform, SCN, where we invite basically developers from our customers. It's significant. I think it's more than 1 million members. But again, at some point it stops, and you can't, you have to realize you need to use technologies that are open source. You have to use technologies where you talk about millions and millions of people that could potentially work with them. And therefore, our new platform, which I will talk about as well in a few minutes, is based on those open standards, and it is actually employing those open technologies as well. And then I saw that earlier, combining it with innovation, with new technologies, and marrying actually things like artificial intelligence and IoT with the platform. So we have started to build in those kind of services into our development platform. We call it SAP Cloud Platform. It has services that deal with machine learning. It has IoT services, etc. And I think this is really where we are going forward, and where the future is for us as well. The question is, why do we even have to do that? And if you look into what has happened in the last couple of years, I mentioned some of the larger acquisitions we have done to get a foothold in the cloud company, because frankly, we weren't able to react quickly enough and kind of build our own cloud products and made them successful in the marketplace. So we went out and acquired some very successful companies here to get into a position to be a big player, at least in this B2B market. Nevertheless, the expectation for a company that's on the market for 45 years and has brought in significant profits also in the last couple of decades is to stay with those profits, to stay profitable, and to grow at the same point in time. And I think that is only really possible if you change up things. So we realized it's not going to be possible with the existing business models we were pursuing and with the traditional way we were working. Just to give you one example here, if you go out and sell an ERP system to a large customer, then you have typically sales cycle that stretch 6 months, a year, maybe even longer than that. You bring in tons of people. You have pre-sales people, you have people who build business cases, you have consultants, and we all add them to those deals, and they work with our customers, and they consult them, and they figure out what is the best thing they should be doing. They're building roadmaps, etc., and the cost per deal is significant on those deals. At the end of the day, you hopefully close a nice volume of a deal, and therefore it didn't matter so much. Nevertheless, this model, I think, came to a point where it's not scalable anymore. So because all you can do is add additional feet on the street, add additional salespeople, but I think it has a clear ceiling. And therefore, if we look now into becoming a cloud company, and all of a sudden we are selling subscriptions, and all of a sudden we are selling much smaller deal sizes and much more volume, and we're going down market, selling into segments that we traditionally haven't touched before, especially with some of our acquisitions like Concur, which is a travel and expense management software. And all of a sudden, cost of deal becomes extremely important. So you can't afford to send all those people out to customers. Ideally, you don't want to have a whole lot of touch points in the sales cycle altogether. You really want this to become kind of an ecosystem based on self-services where customers can go out, actually trial the software up front, and then ideally even buy it through an online platform. The other aspect of this is internal costs. So if I have a customer call internally in our accounts receivable departments, I think the process cost alone is already 4 digits. If you sell a piece of software for a $50 subscription, you can't have such a process cost, right? Otherwise, it's getting extremely not profitable anymore. And so the question for us, or the challenge, is really how do you become a cloud company but stay profitable? I will talk a little bit about some of the platform that we are offering and that we have started to build. And one of it is the cloud platform that I mentioned, where we have started to provide a development platform on which ISVs, independent software vendors, but any developer theoretically can build applications. And we offer services on this platform which makes it easy to take those applications and connect them connect them into our SAP legacy, if you will, into our SAP backend systems. But also promote kind of a marketplace and a shopping window, if you will, where I can very easily, after I finish my development, send it over for an authorization or certification, and then it gets published into this marketplace and people can buy it from there. And I think we've seen similar models on the marketplace. Salesforce does something very similar. At the end of the day, if you reach the scale here that's necessary, you're then in a position really to monetize multiple things. So you can, on the one hand side, you can monetize the platform, something like Microsoft does with Azure, for example. But that's just the technical plumbing underneath it. Not too exciting for us. More interesting is then actually making money by taking rev shares from the applications that are being built by partners. Or if you look into APIs, even monetizing the usage by APIs instead of offering whole pieces of software end to end, cutting those softwares in pieces and offering APIs. And we do have an API marketplace there as well, where we actually publish all those standard APIs for our standard products. And then from an IT perspective, again, as we are, as we say, SAP's first and best customer ourselves, we are using those APIs ourselves to actually implement SAP software. And then building our APIs within IT, which are custom APIs, where we build additional functionality the business requires from us, but publish them into the same marketplace to be available internally then for our colleagues in IT or wherever in the company to use them and actually or reuse them. So here, this helps us really to build an ecosystem of people who are interested in building applications in the SAP ecosystem and actually connect with SAP. Another area I mentioned earlier is the three businesses that we had acquired as Ariba, Concur, and Fieldglass. Those are classic marketplaces, connectivity between suppliers and buyers. Ariba has reached certainly critical mass. I would think it's the biggest B2B marketplace out there for e-commerce, with more than 2.5 million participants on the marketplace conducting commerce. We complement that now with Concur, who has managed actually to bring on a lot of companies and partners, and you see some of the logos here, in order to allow what they call the perfect trip for a customer. So the idea also that you would basically not need to take care of your expense report in a very manual way, but from the very beginning when you plan your trip all the way to sending in the expense report at the end, it would be pretty much an automated process based on the data that's collected and all the partners we have and the visibilities into the end-to-end process. And then finally, Fieldglass, that addresses kind of a total workforce management perspective, where you manage external contingent workers as well and buy services actually for services procurement. So with that, we are actually addressing pretty much 100% of the spend that typical companies have through those networks. And I think that is a huge potential for us, certainly the most profitable and largest network that is at work at the moment at SAP. But we are also doing other stuff. So we are also trying to do concepts and, let's say it more, experiments. This is a great example, SAP Care, which is a family platform. We have internally what we call IT and entrepreneurship boot camps, which is kind of a grassroots initiative to drive innovation from SAP, from within SAP. So there are actually teams that come together for 3 days and they think about ideas they have and they sketch them out, and then they have the opportunity to pitch them to our board. And the board then basically decides which of those ideas could be pursued, could be put into a prototype and then eventually productized. This platform here, SAP Care, is basically a platform where we are connecting German kindergartens or daycares onto this platform, because for them in Germany most of the processes are still paper-based. Whether all the paperwork you have to exchange with them is literally on paper. Things like meal plans, calendars. It's all paper-based today. Parents basically the kindergartens, they print it out and the parents pick it up there. And so this platform really helps to digitize all this and to get parents connected and through a mobile app very simply with their kindergarten or daycare, and they can then see pictures of their kids that they have been taken during the day, etc. So really something that connects the parents with the kindergartens. And this is something that also has then achieved quite a lot of interest with a company, a CPG company in Germany, Bayersdorfer, who said, our brand is actually the Care company, you know? And we would like to be associated with this. We want to be a partner of yours, and we really want to be establishing a co-innovation model, you know, where we own this platform together, we drive this platform together. I think they thought it fit perfectly to their branding as well, and gave them an opportunity to also connect to their end customers, because traditionally, as you know, CPG companies, they always go through wholesalers and don't sell directly to their end customers. But this is a way to really connect, and for us then a way to have a strong partner with whom we can monetize this kind of a platform as well. And there's different opportunities then for monetization of those kind of platforms. So we're still playing around and thinking about different models and how we can make money. I think obviously for SAP it's important to find ways of monetizing those platforms. But as I said, it's also important to build platforms, create mindshare, and create communities. I think then monetization is an afterthought, even though, you know, based on what I said earlier, there's always a lot of pressure on making money rather earlier than later. So again, switching back to an IT perspective and the challenges I mentioned at the beginning, when I said how do we now support those new business models and the commercial models, it's the demand to have really an innovative and integrated system landscape that supports those kind of processes and models. And here you can see a clear shift away from kind of those heavy monolithic backend systems. We still have our ERP system for sure, and it's gonna be there. And the latest version here is for HANA. We are just implementing, but it has primarily a finance focus. A lot of focus has shifted more into the customer engagement area, into the customer relationship management area, where we need to be much more nimble, because that's where things are changing more frequently in terms of new commercial model. If you think about things like pay as you go, customers only want to pay for what they use, etc. And that is really hard to support with those more rigid monolithic systems. So here we are actually again leveraging the cloud platform ourselves then to develop differentiating capabilities on the platform and leverage some of the software that's actually being built on this platform by SAP itself. So you can see that the cloud platform plays an important role in our overall enterprise architecture. And then also this whole notion of big data and how do you deal with the data that you collect on this platform and that you connect through those networks. I think that is providing a slew of new opportunities now that we have also internally to work with this data and drive new insights that we weren't able to do before. And then finally embedding intelligence into things that we are offering from an IT perspective to our business. Make it easier for the business to work, make it easier for the employees to work. One example here is where we have multiple ticketing systems. We use the platform to create a unified UI on top of it, so people only go in there actually. Then we added some machine learning capabilities, so you only type in a term and it gets automatically assigned to the right category and routed to the right people in the help center. To provide the necessary support. So I think that's another example where a platform is at work at SAP internally. And that is actually pretty much in line what we are doing from an outside perspective and how we go to market. We are still positioning our SAP core system as for HANA. Obviously, we have a huge install base, and we want to keep it and keep them happy. And I think there's obviously still a massive need to have those enterprise backbone systems. Nevertheless, then more importantly, I think if you also think about the TwoSpeed architecture here, and we call about mode 1 and mode 2. The mode 2 is really everything that's based on the cloud platform, everything that is built on top of this. I mentioned the marketplace, the API business hub, those kind of things, custom applications, some of the differentiating capabilities that standard development builds, and then our cloud applications that sit right in between. So to wrap it up, from an SAP perspective internally, we are pitching what we call a digital business model to our customers. And you can see here already in this business model, it is inherently has a platform character, yeah? Because we are not only looking anymore only into the inside of an enterprise. That was in the past where you would actually only focus on optimizing processes and automate processes within the company. But now it is by nature, how do I connect outside of my company? How do I work with my customers together? How do I change the customer experience? How do I work with my suppliers together? How do I connect my workforce in whole new ways? And what do I do with data and my supply chain? But then there's also another side to it, which is really the workplace. And we have to spend a lot of money and significant effort in actually make this SAP a modern workplace and mobilize this workplace, allow sharing and collaboration, and allow people to find the information they're looking for immediately. And I think that, again, has been a breeding ground for additional platforms that we have created and communities and ecosystems, even to connect with our employees. And I'm wearing one of those Fitbits. Many of you probably do as well. What this does is it counts my steps and everything and connects then through an application that Apple even delivers on their iPhone, SAP Health. So what we have done actually, again, on our platform, we connected into this, or we tied it into this application, and now we are collecting this data from our employees and collect it on the platform. And what we can do with this now is basically create challenges on top of that, use some of the gamification principles, and actually throw out challenges to our employees and say, okay, let's measure for the next 4 weeks which is the most active team at SAP. And we can cluster it because we know where's the data coming from. And I think that is another way to really drive employee engagement, help them to stay healthy, which also helps them to be more productive. And I think that is what a company like SAP obviously lives off. And it's another way of looking into a platform conceptually, how to leverage that without having directly a monetization aspect in mind, but just something, again, on how we gonna use platforms internally. So I think with that, we are ready on our way to become a digital enterprise. And I think this journey is gonna continue over the next couple of years. Thanks so much.
How would you characterize the difference between SAP's developer ecosystem and partner ecosystem with Salesforce's ecosystem?
I think it is conceptually very similar, to be honest. To be honest, I think Salesforce is quite ahead of us at the moment. They have managed really over the last couple of years to build out this ecosystem. The difference that they have is they basically have built this ecosystem around a specific piece of software, which is CRM software. Right? Whereas we started more with a platform to begin with and said, okay, this is the general purpose development platform, and what we are offering is actually to tie it into various systems at SAP and make it easy to connect to those systems. And I think that is one of the biggest struggles our customers have traditionally, is how do I integrate things into my SAP backbone? And that is also what drives a lot of costs at our customers. And the notion here is to really make it a differentiator. If you go through that platform, it will be much, much easier for you, because we are offering you already certain services that make it easier to connect. But again, this is something that is still growing. You know, we are building this ecosystem here. We are by far not where Salesforce is at the moment, but conceptually it's very similar for sure.
Hi, Jeff Parker, MIT. So Jan, great. And it brings to mind a question, what's hard for you in this transition? What, as a traditional kind of enterprise software firm, you know, with a deep expertise and a great set of capabilities, what's missing? Or to use yesterday's language, what is the job to be done that will help you kind of make this transition?
Well, I think it has to do a lot with the mindset that has to change. And being a German company that has their roots in engineering, you know, we have put a lot of effort into engineering this integrated monolithic ERP system in the past. And now it's more about becoming extremely agile, starting with experiments like the SAP Care platform that I've shown before, and get the acceptance culturally in the company, but also in the management, that we have to actually also accept failure, right? And do this rather fail early, fail often, yeah? And accept to bring out also, and I think Google does this fantastic, bring out those beta versions very early on, test them on the market, see how is the reaction, and then decide if you continue or discontinue something. Our traditional approach is we continue everything. Once it's on the market, then it's there. And then it's causing us internally also a lot of issues then to maintain those things that actually only a few customers use. So I think this change of mindset is really critical if we want to continue to be successful in this place. And that's where we are focusing a lot on internally now to work that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.